Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us. My name is Dorothy Sanders. I'm the Local Health Outreach Coordinator and former Senior Livability Coordinator for the Township of West Orange. I'll be presenting today with my esteemed colleague, Laura Van Dyke, who's the Coordinator of Senior Services for the Township, along with our Livingston colleague, Liliana Branquinho. So we're really excited to present today, and we're really happy that we were invited. We're especially thankful to the Partners for Health, which was one of our original funders for all of our West Orange initiatives in the age-friendly space. This is a great opportunity for us to talk a little bit about our initiative, which was born out of the coronavirus pandemic as a way we sought to meet the emergency needs that existed. So in March of 2020, West Orange was about 9 months into new personnel changes. Laura and I had recently joined, and we were very excited to be a part of the senior services and the senior livability staff. We had come up with some novel initiatives and new programming that we were very enthusiastic about. And as the pandemic unfolded into a crisis, it created a new type of an opportunity for us to strengthen our connections, not only within the township, but outside of the township as well with our surrounding communities. So in the face of that pandemic and the unfolding events, we wanted to really create a coherent vision to address the older and the at-risk populations in our communities. Of course, the coronavirus pandemic knew no geographic, demographic boundaries at all. So we figured that we really needed to reach out. It impacted all of our lives in the senior community. So basically what we needed to do was in real time, figure out a way to adjust to our new models and how we were going to get through it. So Laura and I talked about it, and we looked at the Tri-State Governors Program between New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut, and the collaboration that they were doing, and it was just so very effective that we thought that that might be a great way for us to develop some regional solutions to the coronavirus. And we were motivated to try something similar. So we drew a sort of circle around West Orange, and we looked at our surrounding communities, and we reached out to those communities. And we decided that we'd really like to build a coalition where we could share our values. And it was really very important for us to look at communities that were very, very diverse. So we reached out to Orange, Montclair, East Orange, South Orange, Maplewood, Millburn, Short Hills, Livingston, and the JCC William Margulies Center, Senior Center, which is also located in West Orange. So we tried to engage all of the communities within our radius in order to build upon our efforts and collaboration. So from this outreach, our initial outreach, what we called the COVID-19 Community Coalition was born. And we became a collaboration of local communities and agencies that had joined together specifically to inform and learn from each other in order to yield greater impact for the older adults that we served. And while it wasn't a fit for all of the townships that we mentioned, most of them came on board, and we really built a wonderful coalition. And Laura can tell us a little bit more about that.
Great, thank you, Dorothy. So we love sharing our story because it was born of the pandemic. And at the time, we were not yet an age-friendly community. That happened a couple months later, but it really mirrors sort of the emphasis of age-friendly, of the networking that Rutgers School of Social Work helps us to do. So we're kind of telling a story of a snapshot in time of how we navigated together and took that risk to reach out to our neighboring communities, because let's face it, we don't typically operate that way, but we really felt during this unprecedented time, let's lean on each other. The tri-state governors were doing it successfully. Let's give it a shot. And the response was wonderful. So we're sharing that journey with you today. Thanks for being here. So in the beginning, as we gathered by Zoom, we were meeting every probably 3 to 4 weeks, and for about 90 minutes at a time. And we were sharing critical information and resources and activities and offering our unique perspectives. Anais, if you could just show the COVID-19 risk slide. It's noteworthy really also as a snapshot in time, where we were all just trying to figure things out. And remember when we just didn't even know what kind of risk were we at going out to open the mail or bringing our groceries home. So these were the kinds of resources as we gathered together that we would share and we would talk about and we would use it as a framework. So thank you for that. And then you could put up the next slide of the sample agenda. So we would gather and we would do a lot of reporting on our initiatives. If you see it there, Anais, it's the sample community coalition agenda items. So we would, we would share these initiatives of what we were each doing, how we were managing in our own communities. When we outlined it there based on the different years, and we would share things about the governor's updates and what's the status with schools and just indoor and outdoor activities as we were all trying to offer our programming to our seniors, get the critical resources of how to get to the grocery store, how to get emergency food. So here we were having an opportunity to share that information together and learn from one another. So as I mentioned, then in June of 2020, we did become an age-friendly community. We had that designation through AARP, and it really enriched then these connections with our neighboring communities as we really saw that value in establishing relationships with our neighboring towns who had already made advances in this space. And we really benefited from their keen insights. It really strengthened our lens as we work to become an age-friendly community during a very challenging time. So what shifted then from a lot of the, you could remove that slide, thank you. So then as we're here navigating, sharing information, reporting to one another, well, how are you getting emergency food to your seniors? Are you meeting in person? And Liliana will speak to that a little bit shortly. We recognized sort of the power of us as a group, and we started to harness that a bit more. So it shifted a bit from the reporting to the sharing and the collaborating. So one example was as we know, we pivoted to Zoom. Our older adults were on the cusp of a learning that they didn't anticipate for themselves. So we got a resource from a couple of our community members who said, oh, we have a great technology person, Tara Gray is amazing. West Orange then was able to reach out to her and put money behind developing a tutorial Zoom video, an instructional Zoom video. And then we were able to upload that to YouTube and share it with our neighboring communities who then emailed that to their residents. So our leaning on one another is trickling down now, really strengthening our communities, right? That is the goal of this work that we're doing. So as we know, Zoom then became the lifeline to grocery shopping, social connection, exercise classes. I'm still moved to this day that our older adults who some didn't even have an iPad or iPhone, got the technology, learned how to Zoom, and we were sharing as colleagues that resource, that experience with one another. And again, just as we know, but it's good to even highlight what that time was like with Zoom, allowing our residents to get their access to meals, get transportation resources, and those were the kinds of things that we really focused on. So together then we had another very interesting strategy that we developed, which was in West Orange. We developed a Legacy of Love writing project. So it was an intergenerational project that we knew it would be a great moment to infuse some hope intergenerationally by asking our elders for their pearls of wisdom, their through a letter that they could write, and we would share with our youth through our schools. So West Orange was able to develop this Legacy of Love writing project. On the east, there is a slide that would show some, it was about 18 letters that was in a bound booklet. And these are some quotes from some of these older adults that, again, was shared through our school system. So we were able to share this example of how we could pivot, how we could bring our older adults in. And as we just heard before from Emily in talking about, we know our older adults want to feel needed. We know this. So this was a great strategy. We were able to put some effort into, share with our group. Maplewood and South Orange, each independently, loved the idea, and it planted a seed for them to then take some steps in their own communities. We also then focused on, thank you, Anais, that's great for that slide. We then focused our collaborative strengths on these challenges with particularly our vulnerable populations. So then we said, how can we come together to address improvement in reaching our most vulnerable? So we did engage some of our professionals who work with the most vulnerable and invited them to our meeting. And then together we wrote with all of our communities a letter to county executives with recommendations for how best to meet the needs of our residents in crisis whose calls we receive. So we felt very good about that ability to come together and make an impact in a way that was strengthened by our collaboration, that having a letter with 12 signatures on it makes a stronger impact than just from being from our community alone. And then I want to share an initiative that took a little different, had a little bit more play associated with it. As we said, okay, now it's May, now we're fast forwarding to May of 2022, and we said, let's do an inter-community activity together. And we, for Older Americans Month, was Age My Way. I think it was Montclair that came up with the great phrasing of Walk My Way. So we did a community walk for all of our neighboring communities, and we called it Walk My Way. And it was launched in Montclair in May, and and all of our residents were invited, and we had one of our local agencies providing lunch, and it was a real strong showing of what it can look like when we work together. So that was followed up the next month in June in West Orange at Eagle Rock Reservation. And then just yesterday, we had our third walk in our series, and we were able to achieve that even after our esteemed and beloved colleague retired. So we were able to show up in South Orange and just see that initiative through. And we had a wonderful event yesterday with our residents asking for more. So, and actually on East, if you want to just show that flyer, it just gives the, this is actually a flyer of the West Orange Walk in Eagle Rock Reservation. Then we had our town historian do a 15-minute talk to add some flavor to it. Yesterday in South Orange, we had the Meadowland Park Conservancy come and speak to some of the initiatives happening. So it was a wonderful event, and we felt really, empowered as colleagues to come together. And we know that there's a trickle-down effect, so that as we, as professionals, are able to feel empowered and strengthened, that trickles down to our communities. And I know these are the efforts being made with our age-friendly network, and we are one example of what that can look like. So I'll hand it back to you, Dorothy.
Thank you, Laura. That's a great overview of the work that we've done. And it's interesting because now here we are over 2.5 years later, and we still continue with our strong collaboration. The COVID pandemic has turned the corner somewhat, fortunately, but we realize that the camaraderie that we built is really still essential as we help people to get sort of through the new normal. And we found that our coalition also serves as a validation for us, a sounding board for the challenges that we face. It gives us inspiration as well as new ideas for the work that we do. So when we're not meeting, we continue to share information through email exchanges. I mean, it's not unusual for one of the community members, coalition members, just to kind of pick up the phone or send an email to ask, hey, does anybody have a good resource on X, Y, or Z? And everybody just jumps in and responds immediately. So we have a strong camaraderie that we're really happy about. We met, as Laura mentioned, for Zoom over a year, and it was just such a wonderful opportunity for us to all get together several months ago for the first time and realize that, yes, we all have legs and lower body, so it was really nice to see each other. And we shared lots of hugs and laughs. And there's a lot of value in the ability that we had to solve problems within our community and work with the success of other people from our neighborhoods. And one of a key contributing member of that coalition is Liliana, and I'd love for her to share a bit of her perspective on this as well.
Thank you so much, Dorothy. So as Dorothy and Laura said, so I was invited by them back in 2020. I oversee all the adult and senior programs for the Township of Livingston, and also the Livingston for All Ages initiative, which were just accepted into the age-friendly network of communities and states back this July. So again, if we can go back to 2020 and think of where we were at that point as professionals, we were all independently trying to do the best we could, scrambling for resources. We're in completely uncharted territories, right? So when I received the email from Dorothy and Laura, it was just a very welcome gift, because we then were able to, we were a bunch of like-minded individuals with the same mission, trying to find ways to help our seniors in a time that, you know, our jobs really require us to be in person and be one-on-one with our seniors. And at that point, we were unable to do that. So we have to become innovative, think of ways of different alternatives for technology. We're helping one-on-one over the phone, trying to help them. But I think for me, one of the crucial parts of it was when the first vaccination became available. And now we have a group, we have a demographic that even for those that were familiar with technology and using technology, being able to schedule those appointments by themselves online became a struggle. And that's where we came in. And as a group, as a coalition, we were able to bounce off each other and to offer volunteers. And listen, I know this organization, you guys send seniors to them, give them their phone number. They will help schedule the appointments. We formed in our community our own group of volunteers. But if we all remember how important those appointments were and how scarce in the time that you would have a minute sometimes to schedule an appointment because 300 appointments would open up or 100 of appointments. And so we're all trying to help our seniors. So I want to say that a coalition, it's been a privilege. It's been a privilege and an honor to work with these ladies and to work with our other communities. It was essential. It was valuable. I feel like I was much better equipped to answer any questions for my seniors, ways to help. And so I am grateful to be part of it. It has been a little bit of therapeutic sometimes for us to get together because we all shared the same problems. So we know exactly what we're talking about. We finish each other's sentences and so forth. But I want to open the room now because I know Dorothy, go ahead. I just absolutely, I love being part of this coalition.
Well, that's great. We did want to give an opportunity. I know we don't have much time left, but if anybody had any questions or comments to add, please feel free.
Otherwise, we can keep talking because
I just wanted to comment that the story was so moving, especially the part that after so much action in Zoom, then we meet the people in person, and especially people, elderly people who already isolation is a part of them. Having to see that must have been very moving because you have the layer of isolation as it is, and then you have to put the isolation of the pandemic. So that probably must have an extra positive impact given the circumstances.
Absolutely. That's one of the things Laura and I were talking about, because out of the pandemic, with all of its tragedy and devastation, there was something that was unique and that was built and that came of it. And that we're very, very fortunate about. I was on another in a presentation room earlier, and it was the LGBTQ presentation where he mentioned that
Oh,
Well, we lost Dorothy, but so I'm sure that was interesting. We do thank everyone for being here and really want to highlight that, you know, during a crisis, it does present opportunity and we seized on that. So please.
Can I ask you very quickly before you leave, what's
Yeah.
the link to this organization?